I was talking to the advisor at Oregon State University. I won't mention his name. Most of you wouldn't want to talk to him anyway. But he's talked to me a little bit, and I'm going to get him to talk to everybody here because you guys are the backbone of this organization. He wants to do a program at OSU and involve every one of you. And I'm going to let him talk about it before we go into the next segment. Gus?
Good segue. Okay. So when Victor and I set up this training, one of the things I told him is I said, one of these trainings, we need to have you guys come to Oregon State University. You know, we have nice rooms there, just like this. Maybe, what's that? Well, I might know somebody who could square that away. Just saying. And if that somebody schedules it at the right time, free parking happens on campus at certain times. But the idea, though, is you know, it's great. And part of the reason I wanted to partner with Victor on this is because I know you guys are going to interact with students. That happens, right? You're going to have students from LBCC, OSU, Southern Oregon. You're going to have COCC students all over the state. There's going to be students, right? And that's how I marketed it to my boss. I said, hey, it's not just about going out and teaching about VA benefits. I want to talk about education. They're going to be interacting with students. We definitely need to have these folks know what's going on. But I think it'd be good to have you come to Oregon State University one time and see what are we actually doing on campus. Why is there a Gus Bedwell on campus? And what does that mean? Why is there a Veteran Services Advisor? Do we have a Vets Lounge? What does it look like? You know, interact with some of our student veterans that are on campus so you can get a feel for some of the things that they're doing and the things that they have. It's part of my job to bring the community to the campus, and you guys are the community. So expect that one of these trainings like this will actually be done on campus. And then what I'll also introduce you to is our advisory group, our work group, that are professionals that are working towards the benefit of student veterans to help them navigate not only the OSU structure and process, but also to maximize their VA benefits. Another thing, too, that we're looking at with that when I bring guys on campus, I don't know how many people know that we have a memorial union at Oregon State University. Okay? What a lot of people don't realize is that our memorial union was built by a vet for vets. Okay? And so how many people know that in Lebanon, they're doing a new Oregon Veterans Home out there? Okay. Does anybody know what the name of that home is yet?
Yeah. It's Alfred something.
It's being named after Major Edward Allworth, who is a Medal of Honor recipient. Now here's what's cool. Major Edward Allworth was the first director of the Memorial Union, the creator, the inventor, the solicitor of funds, you know, all of that to get the Memorial Union built back in the day, okay? So it's a great honor to see that Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs says we're going to name our vets home after somebody who's a notable veterans there at Oregon State University. So we're really excited about that. We're going to start a connection with the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs to where possibly we get students going into the Lebanon Veterans Home and doing work and volunteer work and stuff like that for the vets that are going to be housed there. So a little more to be coming on that. I'll be working with Victor on that. I love anybody who wants to be part of that and participate. We'll channel everything through Victor, and I know just like he put this together, he'll let you know and get you the information on that. So, okay. Well, with that, there was a question that was asked before we went to break about, can you explain the whole rating table thing, this fuzzy VA math as we call it, right? And so I'm going to explain it two ways. I'm going to explain it the legal way, which you'll go, God, Gus, why'd you do that? And then I'm going to explain it the way that a vet will understand. Did you ever get my dry erase marker that I needed?
It is right back there. There's several.
I just need a dark colored one. Perfect, thank you. All right. So, let's get rid of this, sorry.
Is that going on into the training program, all that marine?
I don't know. Maybe it's far enough away that his phone's not going into the... Oh, okay.
I was just wondering. We need to have the Navy in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Get the Army going. Hey, what about the Coast Guard? No. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, remember I said 38 Code of Federal Regulation is the legal language, okay, that governs VA benefits. Now, I also said Part 4 is the one that talks about how to rate a disability, how to pay a disability. So 38 CFR Part 4.25 is the combined ratings table. Okay? And you'll notice up here that as I go down a little bit, that here is that ratings table. Okay? And when you look at the ratings table, now that's the cheating way. I'm going to show the easy way. Don't you be cheating. I'm going to show the easy way. That's from the federal VA though. But the ratings table, what they do is they take, and it's a little fuzzy, but I don't know if you can see, they take across the top here, that's one disability at 10%. And just so you know, if you have two 10%, it's 19, okay, with their way that they do the math. So what they do is let's say you have one that's at 10 and one that's at 20, okay? What percentage are you going to be rated at? So you have across the top the lower one, and then you have 20 right here. If what they rate you at is 28%, okay? And I'll explain in a minute why they rate you that way, but that's their combined formula rating table. They use that to come up because what they do is they look at a holistic picture of somebody, okay? And what 28% means is that if your last number, your last digit, is 0 to 4, they rate you down to the nearest 10. If it's 5 to 9, they rate you up to the nearest 10. Now, have I confused you yet?
No.
Okay. Rats, I hoped I had. But would you like a real simple way to explain it to vets?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't know, is this going to burn my paper if I put this on there? We're going to find out. Okay. So, yeah, if it starts to flame, oh, there it is. So here's what we're going to do. Here's the whole pie theory. Okay? This is 100% of somebody. Okay? And we have 10, we have 30, we have 20, and we have, let's just say another 20. Okay? These are what the person's rated for. And don't focus too much on, like, is it back, knees, ankle? It doesn't matter. Just know that they have 4 different ratings, and these are the ratings. Okay? And we're going to go through the process to find out what is this individual actually rated at in a holistic manner. Okay. First thing you have to do, and I'm not going to use the combined, like if you have a bilateral factor, that's a whole nother explanation. Let's just say none of them are bilateral, which means none of them are both limbs, like right knee, left knee kind of thing, okay? These are just like back, neck, depression, okay. First thing you have to do is you have to put these ratings in order. Highest first, and then the lowest, okay? So, I have to go 30, 20, 20, and 10, okay? Now, if I use the ratings table, the first 2 ratings I combine is the 30 and the 20.
Each represent an individually different rating.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes, they do represent an individual rating. So one could be 30 for the neck, one could be 20 for a knee, one could be 20 for a back, and one could be 10 for tinnitus as examples. Okay? Now, you and I both know if we do the math that this is 5, 7, 8, this is 80%, right? Okay. Well, let's find out what the VA figures it at. Now, when you start out, you're 100% of a whole person, right? You're not 100% rated, you're just 100% of a whole person in the holistic math theory. Okay, so what I do is I take 30% times 100, right, 100, 30% times 100, I'm not going to do a percentage there. What does that equal? That equals 30, right? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, boom, I'm going to take away, and I'm horrible at drawing, so please forgive me, I didn't get my artist degree. This is 30%. Well, what's left of that holistic person?
70%.
All right, you guys are tracking good. Okay, 70%. So now, when I come down here, I'm going to times it by 70%. Because I can't times 20 by 100 anymore because there isn't 100 left. Okay? Now, 20 by 70 is going to equal, let's see, 20%. That's going to equal 14, right? Because 7 is 10%. Okay, perfect. All right, now, so I take away another 14, blah, blah, blah. We now have a number of 56. Come down here, do 56. It'd be 5.6 if it's 10%. So it's 11.2. So for simple math, I'm just going to say 11. Okay? So now I know that instead of 11, I have 44 left. 10% of 44 equals, it would be 4.4, but I'm just going to do 4.0 to make it easy because that last number I'm rounding down. Okay? And so now when I do this, I have 5, right? Dang it, goes right. And then I have 4, 5. No, wait a minute. This should have moved over. This should have moved over. Sorry. That's actually, that's 9. There we go. And then I have 59. Now, what did I say happens with that last digit? Goes up. So really, this guy's rated at 60%. And this is how they came up with it. If I went to the chart, I could show you on the chart. But don't you think this is a little easier to explain to a vet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Get that up there.
I even understand it now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm just going to, there we go.
Why wouldn't they take, like, say, for instance, oh, they always have to go with the highest amount
Yes,
first. Okay.
yes.
So,
Now, here's why this is really important to know. Yeah, and I'm so happy that you asked that question, because here's why it's really, really important to know. The guy walks into you and says, I really think I should be 20% for a particular item. I think I should be 20% for this item that's 10. Okay? Right? Now we're going to change this to 90. But I think I should be 20% for that item, right? And I know that I've still got, everything else stays the same because the formula is still the same. 20% of this now is 8.8, which is, we're going to just make it 9, right? Because just to round it up. Okay, so now let's figure out 9, 10, 14, 1, 4, 5, 6.
Stays at the same level.
Did I help him?
No.
Irritates me to no end when a VSO and a veteran walks in and a VSO says, sure, I'll file the claim for you. If you're not going to help your veteran, don't do it. Okay? Yeah, I'm giving you the stern look face. Why? Because that's what we're here to do, is help our vets. And you're going to send a vet through an 18-month process to ask for an extra percentage of disability, and all that's going to happen is they're going to stay at the same percent. What good have you done? That's why it's important to know the rating table. Yes?
And has it not already done more damage to other veterans by tying up the system so that they can?
There you go. So one thing, oh, go ahead.
The biggest deal is not only tying up the system, but you've turned around and you've made a vet very angry.
Yep.
Very angry.
Can I get those paper towels
If
over there?
nothing else, he falls away. There should be an eraser right there on the table.
Oh, okay. Is there a eraser there? I would love to leave this up, but I do want to have the screen, so I'm going to take down.
I don't see it.
It
Okay.
must be up there on the...
You know what? This will work. This will work. I'll make this work. Were you able to get this, sir, for the video? Okay. All right. See? Us Army people know how to draw just fine on whiteboards.
And did well with his color crayon.
So, that's a simple way to explain rating table. Now, one thing I will do for myself is I would go to the rating table because I'm doing real simple math, and if you're off, as you could tell, if you're off just one digit, right, make it a big difference. So, since I came up with 64, I would probably go back to the rating table just to make sure it's not 65. Because if it is 65, then it might be worth filing that claim. And I've had guys that are 90% that file claims and expect that they're going to get 100%, and they come to find out they moved from 91 to 92.
When you go through a change claim process, you go through your entire CMP again.
When you ask for an increase, yes.
It's important to know.
So when you go through a rate increase, just so everybody heard that, when you go through a rate increase or you ask for an increase of a disability or a brand new disability, you have to go through the CMP, the compensation and pension process, all over again. So that's right. If you have severe PTSD or severe mental health or a physical issue, And that's a good question that you asked about that, because one thing I want to emphasize is when you ask for something from the VA, they giveth, they can taketh. So let's say that the VA has determined for whatever reason that your disability is actually improved, not gotten worse. Now all of a sudden they're proposing to reduce.
And isn't it true, Gus, on that same note, that if you, let's say you're looking for an increase on your knee, and you're at 60% on other issues, the VA can choose at that point in time, because you've opened your file to look at everything?
That is exactly correct. If you apply for a new claim for something or ask for an increase of something, the VA can look at every disability rating that you have. They can take that upon themselves. And they don't necessarily have to tell you that they're doing that when they're doing it. They will tell you down the road when they do the propose to reduce. So yes, so you want to definitely make sure when you ask for something from the VA that you know what you're asking and you know what it's going to how it's going to affect the veteran.
And I tell these veterans that. Now, when you've got a veteran at 60%, you may fill this in, is when they're at that point, and you can't, the 20% is, the extra 10 is not going to raise it. But the thing of it is now this veteran's at 60%, but you haven't filed a claim on ischemic heart disease, and the guy just had a heart attack, and it's open heart surgery, it's life-threatening down the road, and he's a Vietnam vet. You need to get that claim filed.
Right.
Now, here's the thing that I tell all vets, is where they may come back is only give you 20%. May not change your rating. But it's now a service-connected disability, which can be the difference in spousal support down the road if you die of a heart attack.
Right. And when I was working with veterans, one of the things I would look at is, am I helping or am I harming? If you're already at a stage where there's not more I can do for you, I'm really not going to get any additional benefits, I'm not going to help set the stage for your wife or spouse to get additional benefits, then I probably don't need to mess with your claim. Okay? So, I mean, we have people walking around 100% permanent and total that want to open it up because they're on individual unemployability at 100%, but they really rather be on 100% scheduler where all of their disabilities come up to 100%, and then they could do a part-time job. I understand the concept of that, but they're also drawing Social Security, right? Could that possibly be a negative to Social Security? I'm going to look at that. I want to look at that. I don't want to harm the vet. No harm done, right? That's what we're not in the business of harming anybody. We're in the business of helping them. So there have been times that I've told individuals who've wanted to file claims, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy to file the claim because I don't think I could support you as an advocate. I don't think that I can give you, I don't think it's in your best interest to file the claim. And that, I know that's a struggle with some veteran service officers and county and state, because some management has an approach that if a vet wants something, they should give it to a vet. But I think it's all about your relationship with the person, your how you conduct yourself, your credibility. I mean, people would come from other areas of the state to see me because they knew Gus won't bullshit me. He'll play it straight. I apologize. I probably shouldn't use that language, but you know what I mean.
It's okay, we all
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So
if we were a mixed company, I'd do one thing, but we're all Americans.
that's perfect. Perfect. So
just so you can clarify on the rating scale, and you can use me as an example if you want. I'm 380%.
Right.
On the left side of the wall, I'm 100%. I was for many years. I was 70 and 70 for two disabilities. That was 140%, but it never come up to 140. But it came up to put me in a position to draw unemployability, which brought me to 100%. 70% for service connected, the rest on unemployability. After I received three disabilities of 100% for each one, the unemployability became minute.
it went away.
It went away. It just dropped.
Right.
So at one point I couldn't work when I only had 70 and 70. Now I'm at 100% more than once. Now I can go out and get a job and make as much as I want.
What also, and since you throw this on the table, I can get away with talking about this, not have a HIPAA violation, but when you're at multiple hundreds, or you're at one with 100% and another one at 60%, a totally different type of disability, There are other benefits above and beyond the 100% that you could get called aid and attendance or housebound benefits. And so, again, I can't emphasize enough that, and I know we're going kind of away from the rating table, but it's a good conversation, that when you look at how you're helping a veteran, make sure that we're doing no harm to them. Make sure that what they're really asking for is what they really need. Okay, and it's really going to have a positive impact in their disability benefits or their VA medical or whatever it is that they're applying for.
And because I said you could use me, and because of that, and what he said about the, you can then, because of the higher benefits, you can get the unemployed or the aid and attendance. My income went up from $2,900 with my wife to a little over $4,000 a month.
Yeah. Yes.
So, if I understand you correctly, whenever a vet wants to increase his claim, his benefits claim, and so he files a claim, the C&P process is a total redo.
Okay, so let me rephrase that question to make sure I'm tracking right. Whenever a veteran wants to increase or add a new disability to their claim, do they go back through the C&P process? And the answer is yes. As part of that process, the VA can take a look at any and all disabilities, not just the one they're asking to increase and not just the one they're asking to add. So you have to be very clear on that.
Also,
Okay.
with that, there is a possibility that then when he goes through that investigative process, that his benefits percentages could be reduced?
So as they go through the process, the C&P process, the question is, could their benefits be reduced? And the answer is yes, their benefits could be reduced. The VA has a legal obligation to send you a letter that says proposal to reduce, to give you time to counter and say, no, I don't think you should reduce, and here's my medical evidence why I don't think you should reduce. On that note, and I'm going to get with you because I see your hand up. On that note, one thing I will say is, here's a great time to emphasize to veterans, you don't get to sock it up and drive on. You don't get to not go to the doctor. You don't get to do that stuff. You're not in the military anymore. Okay? You hurt, you go to doc. You have problems in the head, you go to doc. Because the VA can use the fact that you have not sought out medical treatment or mental health treatment for numbers of years as a sign that it's obviously got to have improved. Even though you and I both know that that's really not the situation. It's just that the person's either plateaued or they're so frustrated with the system or people in general that they're not going to seek out the help.
Or they don't think they need it.
Right, that's true. Like me, I'm going to reveal I have a back problem, right? There's no more that can be done for me. Period. Okay? I've had 3 back surgeries, and I have a bulging disc in the middle of my back, and I have scar tissue all up and down the lower back. Nothing else can be done for me. If the bulging disc in the middle of my back ever becomes nerve damage related, the only thing they can do is crack me open and do another surgery. That's it. So when I hurt, I don't go to medical. I should, but I don't. Right? I also know that I'm never going to get any higher than percentage that I already have from the VA. But what I tell my vets, though, that are at lower percentages or whatnot, is maybe you should go to medical. Maybe you should get some care. Okay? Even if it's just as simple as give me some ibuprofen. That's what I do to keep my medical, to where if anybody ever says, well, it must have got better, I'll go, no, here's an MRI that's been done in the last 2 years, and you can see how it's gotten worse, and here's some ibuprofen that I take every single day to manage through the day. So you've got to really convince the veterans, please, get in and get the health care, because it'll help not only for the health care, but it'll help for the claims process.
One of the things that you will run across with veterans, Gus, and this fits right in there and something you should talk about, is that you've got veterans that are less than 100%. And it's been going on for some time, but it's going to get massive. And especially now that veterans are coming home and there's a lot of PTSD claims. And these, let's say a veteran has 70%. The VA is getting ready, and they've been doing some of it now, but they'll get more and more intense because of budgets. They are going to start writing you letters and calling you in for reevaluations.
Yep.
And if you haven't continued your counseling, continued your meds, those are all going to affect the way they look at your PTSD, for example. I'm using that as one, and he used his back. Anybody that's less than 100% permanent and total can be called up for an evaluation at any time.
Right.
So, you need to let these people know that if they're not following through with their doctors and their counseling, even if they put them on a 3-month cycle for counseling, at least it shows
Right.
it's being managed. Be careful what you tell a vet when you say, okay, well, that's as far as you can go, I guess you're fine.
Oh.
Don't do that. Make sure they stay in if you can, any way possible.
You had a question or a comment?
Relative to the CNP,
Okay.
this is one of the dangers about going out there and doing the CNP. There are different evaluators.
Yes.
You might on the first time get a very good evaluation. Second time, you might find somebody that may not be so interested in helping you that doing the job like the other guy. And he may rate you differently, may rate you lower, which can affect your deaths or other things. That's the danger.
Yeah, I can't agree enough that when you go through the evaluation process that you're going to get different evaluators. You may even get a different process, which I'm going to talk a little bit later this afternoon about, disability benefits questionnaires and that type of thing, and how that can affect. So, and what if the law changes? That's another thing too. If the law changes where maybe before you could have been at 60, but now the highest is 40, and they see improvement, they could rate you under the new law. So, I'm going to go to your question. Then I still want to get around the room, but yes.
You said GAF.
GAF is Global
Assessment Function Score.
Thank you. And so GAF, Assessing Function Score, and it's related to mental health disabilities. You had a question, sir.
I was just going to add a comment that it's my contention, even if you are permanent and total, which I am, I'm still never going to stop going to counseling because the law could change down the road.
Right.
And that's another one.
Well, and the other thing too is that is it helping you?
Yeah.
There you go. And see, there are services that help our vets, right? So we need to. That's part of the speech that we have is with veterans. That's part of that relationship is getting veterans to understand, that there are services that are there to help us. Yes, I know the government's bureaucratic. Yes, I know they screw things up. Yes, I know they can be very frustrating and difficult. But genuinely, if you talk to most VA employees that you talk to, not necessarily in the leadership, they have big global pictures, right? I'm talking about the day-to-day people. The guys and gals who served in the military themselves and now working for the VA because they want to help their brothers and sisters. In general, the VA is a caring organization and wants to help. Okay? There are just things that just happen. FUBAR, I think somebody mentioned earlier, right? It's effed up all beyond belief, right? So, or recognition, I guess it is. So, that's just common. It's a government system. But we as advocates, if we could spend the VA in a positive manner, let people know that things that are bad happen, but we can do things to try to help them navigate. I mean, Victor and I have been in positions before where we've been able to open doors that other people have said no. Why? Because we built relationships with those VA employees. We don't treat them as adversary. We treat them as partners. So that's the language I try to bring in when I'm talking to a veteran is they are our partners out there. They want to help us. Now, you get a jackass or two occasionally. That happens, right? Let them be. There's ways to deal with them, too. It's called patient advocates. It's called appeals. It's called other things like that we can do. So I'm going to continue on around the room. Real quick, I'm just going to check in with everybody to make sure, is this style working for you guys? Just being able to, I know I have some topics I want to get to, but it sounds like I'm being able to get to the topics that you guys really want to know about too. Okay, good. So I think I stopped with you at the ratings table, so I'm going to go on to the back and see if there was something that you wanted to talk about specifically. Okay? Good.
Dan, you had a question?
Oh, I heard on the radio yesterday driving home that the VA starting next year is going to cap everything at $2,800 a month max.
So, okay.
I couldn't. I was
Right.
catching the tail end of something.
So to repeat the question is that you heard that on the radio that the VA is going to cap at $2,800 a month. Okay. I would. Could you lift your foot
And
just
it
a little?
takes 262 days now to start a claim.
I'm going to answer this in a two-part session, okay? As far as a cap, in order for the VA to make any kind of decision like that that's legislatively, where they say, we are going to cap a disability benefit at this amount, they have to be supported by Congress. There has to be a law that's set in place that Congress says, this is the most you're going to get. Okay? Right now, the law says that the VA has to pay, and there's this there's a payment chart actually in 38. Now, I'm going to give you another. That basically says how much you have to pay an individual. The United States Code is what Congress actually put together as the law, the amendments, and Code of Federal Regulation is what the VA uses to apply the United States Code. Okay, so in the 38 United States Code, Congress has already basically told the VA, this is what you'll pay every year. And until Congress comes back and makes a law change that says, no, 100% is capped at $2,800, the VA will never be allowed to do that. So,
Do that about the time you vote the
well, we won't talk about the 1.7, 1.2% that we get every year. Yes.
Staying with this question,
Yes.
are you ever notified as to when such legislation is in progress that would cap such benefits?
Okay, so that's a really good question. Do I get notifications about legislation? And what I do is I have a network of friends and a network of professionals out there that are monitoring legislation and different articles and different policies and procedures within the VA. And by having that network, I'm able to get information from them. So when they get it, they give it to me, or I get it from the federal VA. So yes, we get some of that. At Oregon State University in particular, they have actually come to me about legislation that will affect student veterans and said, what is your take on this? Do you have any information? What's the background information? So, yeah, on a continuous basis, I get information. And I actually publish a newsletter for Oregon State University staff members that are vets or non-vets that educate them on what's going on out there in the VA and military community, what's some of the updates, that type of thing. So, yes.
Does every state university in the United States has an office like you occupy that helps out vets within their particular state?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain the structure within the university and community college systems, and I'm going to explain their typical veterans office, and then I'm going to explain my office. Okay? Good question. So in every public school, private school that administers a VA benefit, where they get paid a VA benefit, they are required to have a person who helps veterans or their dependents navigate the process. Now, here's a challenge. You call those individuals veteran certifying officials, okay? I am not a veteran certifying official, okay? I will be very clear on that. The challenge is that most schools, the veteran certifying official, A, may not be a vet, so they don't understand veterans language, okay? And B, it's not their only job. They may have several jobs. Lynn Benton Community College is an example. Just recently, they tried to have a veteran certifying official that was also a financial aid specialist. And they've done that historically. They just recently learned with the numbers that they needed to have a little bit more. So I understand they hired somebody on a full-time basis to be able to just work with veterans. I'm trying to think. Some of your smaller schools, like if they have 50 to 100 veterans or less that are attending there, they'll have them do like disability services or academic counseling or financial aid counseling. They won't just do veteran stuff, all right? At Oregon State University, we have 2 veteran certifying officials, and primarily their job is to assist the students. We have a total of 871 student veterans drawing a VA benefit right now, and their job is to be the liaison between the student, the school, and the VA for education benefits. When you look at a certifying official, that's what they primarily deal with. They deal with just education benefits. Different certifying officials in different locations may do a little bit more, but most of them across the country, that's all they deal with is education benefits. Matter of fact, if you ask them about VA medical, you know what they're going to do? Here's the website. Here's the 1-800 number. Because they don't have that knowledge, right? And frankly, they don't have the time. Now, at Oregon State University, it's different. I work as the Veteran Services Advisor there, okay? When I was hired not to certify courses, because we already have veteran certifying officials to do that. I was hired for everything else VA. I was hired if you have an education problem and you can't navigate it with the VA, I get to come help you with that. If you need a waiver of overpayment done, I get to help you with that. If you needed to know who are the community members that are working with veterans, I get to help you with that. I also get to train staff and employees and administrators on all of the VA benefits, all the VA resources. I'll come in and have a military culture conversation with a group of individuals that have never been in a day in their life exposed to the military. And now all of a sudden they're open and they go, wow, that explains why our students are acting this way or that way. We would have never thought about that, right? So I do, what I tell everybody in my role is I do all other things VA. Now, Oregon State University, of our 7 state universities, is very unique because of my position. I get paid to not only interact with anybody from the president of the university all the way down to the guy who's doing maintenance at the Memorial Union, but I also am a faculty advisor and I'm on the student side being a student advocate for them when it comes to things on campus and off campus. Okay? At other places, you'll find one or the other. You'll find somebody who's training staff but really doesn't deal with students, or you'll find somebody who deals with students and really doesn't deal with staff. Okay? A majority of the time, that's what you'll find in any veteran service advisor, veteran service coordinator, that type of thing on campus. OSU is very unique because when they hired me, they said, we want somebody who can span the gap. We want somebody who can do it all. And so I'm always looking at, what do I bring on campus? Like I said earlier, I want you guys to come on campus. Why? So you interact with students. I'm going to have you interact with some of our staff and professional faculty who are on our advisory committee and work group so they could see who you guys are as veterans organization. Some of them are veterans, some of them are not. They just have a desire to help veterans. So does that kind of answer the question of the makeup of the individuals?
The video that we're doing right now is going to be used for training purposes, not going to be put online, it's being broadcast.
Right.
We're having a little difficulty hearing some of the questions. Some of the questions are extremely detailed. The problem you're going to have when you listen to the video is you'll hear the answer, but you won't hear the question. So we've got a mic here, and especially like the Victor's in the corner top,
Okay.
we have some ambient noise.
Oh, okay.
With the wind and so on and so forth. That's causing some issues. So as you ask questions, if you can just trade the mic back and forth and know how they do it. Right?
And I'm trying to repeat the question too, so bear with me.
Some of the
But
questions are very detailed,
Yep.
and very specific.
okay. So how about we give the mic right here, and then we'll get it handed around as time goes. How's that sound? Okay. So
Well, it's just a statement. I heard that OSU is going to build that center.
okay. So to answer your question about OSU. Well, to answer your question about Oregon State building a veterans center type thing, the answer is yes. We are working on, but it's not going to be just for veterans. There are 2 other student resources groups that are on campus. One of them is called Human Services Resource Center, and they help with students in poverty and hunger and homelessness and that kind of thing. We have a lot of veterans who suffer that, right? And then Child and Family Resources, which again, we have a lot of student veterans that are parents and have children and they need help with that process. We have come together and said we have our student population kind of crosses all three populations, right? There's characteristics of student veterans in all 3 of those. There's characteristics of any of our population in all 3 of these. So why don't we, instead of having one building that's specific to veterans and then these veterans having to go to other locations for these other resources, why don't we figure out what resources we can bring into one building that not only helps students with poverty and helps students with that are parents, but also helps student veterans. And there is some money that's been set aside. Myself and 2 other individuals are on a committee, and we have a long-term plan. I say long-term because it could take 3 to 5 years. You know how these things work, with buildings. And we plan to put a building on campus specifically for helping students as they access resources, and veterans being one of them. So, great question.
Make sure you use the mic, because we have no mic to get on here.
Okay.
Other questions?
So, who wants to? I know we've kind of went over here. We're going to go this direction. Is there something that somebody wants to know, like we've kind of dealt with here up to this point, as far as a particular thing that you wanted to have answers to?
Yeah, Gus.
Okay.
My question to you is that is your sphere of influence limited just to veterans wanting to go to college, like at OSU or at Lynn Benton, or is it just? So just tell me what your sphere of influence is.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that I'd like to say that my sphere of influence is based upon my reputation. So, what I mean by that is although I have a title that's specific to Oregon State University and what I do on Oregon State University, I have been called up by other universities, other community colleges, other organizations to come in and have conversations, give input, and maybe even be the subject matter expert on what is happening within the veteran community in general. Okay? I believe the reason I get those opportunities is not because of my position, but because of my reputation, because of the type of person I am, and the different avenues that I've worked in and the different venues that I've had opportunities to work at. You know, as you noted earlier when we were talking, I got to be the keynote speaker at Timberline Memorial Park during Veterans Day weekend. You know, I don't think you get asked those questions unless you have a good reputation. I don't think you just get asked. I honestly don't think a mediocre or a bad county veteran or a bad state veteran or a bad person in general gets asked to go and stand in front of a bunch of people and give your perspective from a personal perspective of why a veteran's so important to the world, right? I have, with my dealings with the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, I've had opportunities to be in front of state legislators, and by building a rapport with them, been able to help get certain things done and help educate others on what a veteran and a student veteran is. So what I try to do is make sure that when I'm doing things that it's not going to ruin my reputation, because I know if it ruins my reputation, it'll ruin those people that I'm trying to forward. It'll oh look, there's another bad vet, right? We don't want that, right? So that's what I try to do. So I try to be very civil, very political in anything that I do, but I'm pretty clear in some things that I do, where I will say, hey, look, that's not the right path. We need to stop. You know, and so that's where I'm at. Do I have plans one of these days of leading a big veterans organization? Hell yeah. I want to make some good things happen. So, you know, but until then, I just kind of keep doing what I can at this point.
One of the things, Gus, I want you to comment on, because it's really important. We've got so many advocates that are coming into this program through Vets Helping Vets HQ, and that is, how do you deal with your frustration so you don't show the anger, and vets go off and start getting cocky about the programs, and we don't want to deal with them. We want to make sure that our attitudes are always right in what we do. How do you deal with that?
Well, the first thing is I believe in starting the first impression as a professional one. So how many people were here when I first came, right? Did you see that I was wearing a tie? And, you know, I'm not saying everybody has to wear a tie, but I do that personally because I want to set an impression. Hey, that guy must know what he's doing. He must know something about the VA system. He must care enough about himself and others to step up to the plate in a professional manner. The next step is I try not to take anything personal. You as a vet, me as a vet, we're going to say dumbass things, right? You know, it's not personal. It's probably you expressing your frustration. With that said, though, I have boundaries. You should have boundaries, okay? As great as this organization is and the fact that Victor's got this in his barn, there are times that Victor has to take a vacation and has to leave his phone alone and has to go away and spend time with his family. I will tell you myself personally, my family is very important to me. You will not get an opportunity to come into my house. Why? It's not that I don't like you. It's that my family right now, that's their sanctity. That's their safety, right? That's their security. And I don't bring people into the house from work typically because that's my family time, right? Now, with that said, do I do weekend things? Do I do evening things? Yes, because I believe in what I'm doing, and do I volunteer for things? Yes, okay. But I think it's that setting a professional appearance, setting a professional tone, right? And then the next step is when somebody says something personal to you, don't take it personal. Now, if somebody's continuing to be attacking or continuing to be negative. Okay? How many people in here were non-commissioned officers in the military? Right? So you all understand what wall-to-wall counseling means, right? You know you can do that verbally still, right? We could do that as veterans. We can have those really serious conversations. And when I have those really serious conversations, here's how I started. Victor, you and I are going to have a conversation that needs to get things done. I want you to sit down and I want you to be quiet.
Ain't gonna happen in this lifetime.
I've tried it many times, it don't work.
But the thing is Victor, if I wasn't doing it here and it was just me and Victor alone, do you think that we have a relationship that I built that you and I could have a conversation?
Absolutely.
Right. Same thing with Victor. I know if Victor was to come to me and said, Gus, sit down. We need to have a conversation. That in our relationship that I've built by being professional, by being clear, by being concise in expectations, I know professionally that he wouldn't be approaching me that way unless there was something that really needed to happen, right? And I imagine you all had that kind of conversation with Victor at some point probably. It probably started with the, you're going to get the benefit you need, let's have a conversation, right? So I think that's what it is now.
Just be patient.
That's right. Now the last thing I'm going to say about that though, and then it looks like lunch is here, so we'll get to that. But the last thing I'm going to say about that in particular is, I have no problem, and neither should you, of booting out somebody who's just going to be an ass. Okay? Just because you're a vet, just because you have combat, just because you have PTSD, just because you got blown up, just because of whatever you want to describe, doesn't mean that you get to treat me like a jerk. You are not going to do it. And if you continue to do it, then I have the right to not help you. Go get help somewhere else. Have I done that before? Yes. I had a vet who called up to our agency who I had helped immensely and proceeded to call my front counter staff a fucking bitch. You don't do that. Okay? And I called him on it. Then he proceeded to cuss me out. And I told him over the phone, I said, let's get something straight. You don't do that to me. You don't do that to my front counter staff. And for that matter, aren't you looking for work? Okay? Don't burn your bridges with people who can write referrals for you. Don't burn your bridges with people who can write letter of recommendations. You know? You don't get to do that. And the person, well, rah, rah, rah. I said, fine, then you know what? If this is how you want to act, then obviously I'm not the advocate for you. Because I'm not going to take it. You know? Feel free. I'll give you a name of a couple advocates. I call those people up, let them know this is what's coming your way. Typically call people who I think could probably handle this individual. Have I done any harm by kicking them out my door? No. Have I helped them? Sure. And you know what? In a couple of situations, vets came back to me and said, you know what, Gus? You're right. I was having a rough spell, and I acted inappropriately. Can I go apologize to your receptionist? Can I go apologize to you? Right? But again, professional, clear and concise in expectations, building a relationship, and then not being afraid, if you have to have those conversations. Just do it in a manner that's appropriate. Does that kind of help?
That helps.
Okay.
We're going to take a break here, and when we come back on the next segment of this is Gus is going to go on to forms, and he'll be pulling up forms, showing you where to go and how to get them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Pat, Pat, would you bless our pizza so we don't choke on it?
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this food. We just ask your blessing on it. Let it be perfect nourishment for us as we continue to try to do your will. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Everybody get their seats. Steve, can it. Okay, we're going to get back to what we're doing, and I'm going to turn it over to Gus, and he is going to be talking about forms and what forms you should be using and helping the veterans with, and what forms the veterans should be taking to their doctors. And we won't get them all today, but he'll show you where to go get them if you need them.
Yep. Okay, so first thing, kind of our public service announcement. This session, these couple hours session, so we can get everything on the videotape for additional people that are going to be using this training, I'm going to request If you ask a question or you make a comment, let's get the mic in front of you, okay? I know some of you go, I don't like mics, but I don't like it either. But we got to do it, right? We're helping each other. So let's talk about forums. First off, how many people are comfortable with computers in here, as far as internet, that type of thing? So there's a couple of you that's okay.
Knowledgeable, but can stumble through some things.
Okay, and your comfort level is probably what's reflective of the veterans you're working with as well. Okay, so I want to give you a charge. I want to give you an idea to look at. Okay, your comfort level's here. Your veteran's comfort level is here. That's pretty low, right? Now, some of us have some comfort level up here, and then some of us are way off the board, right? And then there's Victor. We won't talk about that. No, but what I would say is kind of like with the thing that I said about coming in professionally dressed and how you look and everything. Same thing with the internet. If you're not comfortable with it, then the first thing you need to do is get on it. And here's why. Because there's huge tools out there that will help you as an advocate to help your veteran. And the internet has it provided. The VA's done that. So if you haven't explored the internet, if you haven't gotten a great comfort level with the internet, just go out there. Start searching for something. You know, something you like to do. This is how I got comfortable with the internet, because I wasn't one of those internet kids. I actually learned it after I left the military. My wife as well. We found things we wanted to explore. So, like, if you like fishing, fine, go to Google and search out fishing. You'd be surprised at how comfortable you start getting with the internet when you search something out you really enjoy, okay? Or if you like trucking or whatever it may be, you know. Hopefully it's not anything that's going to get you in trouble, but, you know, but that gets you comfortable with how do I search, how do I click on links, you know, that type of thing, okay? So I just want to encourage that, all right? Now, what I'm going to show you here, though, is this is the VA's website. It's www.va.gov, okay? Pretty straightforward website, but there's some huge resources on there, and one of the resources that's on here is VA forms, okay? And I'm going to show you how to access those VA forms. I'm going to show you how to teach your veteran to access those VA forms, because if you teach your veteran how to access them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to do a lot of the work, that's right.
They're going to pass it forward to another veteran.
That's right. They're going to go out and teach another veteran how to do it, right? So by teaching a veteran how to do this, you're now expecting that veteran's going to take it forward and teach somebody else. So guess what? That's what I'm doing today, is I'm going to teach you how to use this online system and get forms. So to access the online system, you just take your mouse. For those of you who don't know what the mouse is, that's that little box off to the side with a wire. You know what that is, right, Victor?
It's a
Don't smack it with a hammer. It won't work very well.
I set traps now.
Yeah, that's not something your cat chases. But anyhow, if you take your mouse and you hover over Veteran Services, you'll notice that a toolbar drops down, and it actually happens for any of these links. You just hover over it, right, and the toolbar drops down. So if I go to Veteran Services, and the quickest way for me to find this particular online application is I go to GI Bill, because that's where I spend a lot of time, right? You could do it different ways. One of the things I would tell you is once you get to a link, right, bookmark it. Now, how many people know how to bookmark a link? How many people would love to be taught a simple bookmark? Okay, so what you do is in most variations of internet, they have a thing up here that's called bookmark. You just click on it, and it'll allow you to bookmark this page. Okay? Now, when you bookmark this page, some of them will bring something like this up, where it'll ask you where you want it bookmarked. Alright? And what I do is I typically go and I bookmark like the bookmarks toolbars. Okay? And then I hit done, and then what it should do is load it up, and it didn't do it this time. Dag burn it. Okay. It should load it right up here to where I can have it right here in my bookmarks toolbar. Okay? And, huh? No, I know, it sounds right.
I'll show you how to do it when I come over Sunday.
Yeah. What's nice about that, though, is if I want to go straight to that website when I first come on the internet, I can go, like, welcome OSU veterans. Instead of navigating all the way through the OSU website to get to veterans, I just hit on it, and boom, there I am. I'm right to OSU veterans. Okay? So I can't emphasize that enough. I know that's real simplistic, but just to help you out, kind of like a tool. Okay, so, and what I would say is when you get to the spot in the website where you need to be, that's where you bookmark. Not the home page, not 2 or 3 pages back, because that creates problems, right? Now you're having to navigate through those pages to get where you need to be. Bookmark the pages. Later, Billy and I are going to work on, I'm going to send you guys a sheet of different links that I've actually created that go specifically to certain types of benefits, so you don't have to navigate all the way through the VA's websites to find these, okay? One of which is going to be the online application process that I'm about to show you. So I'm going to go Veteran Services. Let me go back here, actually. I clicked on it. Don't click on it, but actually hover over it. I'm going to come down to GI Bill because that's the way I'm used to, like I said. And in the middle of the GI Bill is the place here where I apply for benefits. Okay? And you'll hear VAWNAP as the acronym. It's VA's Online Application System. VAWNAP. Okay? Excuse me. Apologize. If I go down here to VAWNAP and I actually click on Launch VAWNAP, it'll bring up something like this. Now, if you've never used VAWNAP before, you want to create your account. Okay? What I'm going to do to kind of help out a little bit is I'm just going to go through that process a little bit with you, and then I'm going to go back into my actual VAWNAP account. Okay?
So backing up a little bit, that says the toolbar list drops, toolbar drop down comes up. You go to what?
GI Bill. And then in the middle of the GI Bill homepage is the Apply for VA Benefits, or they call it VAWNAP. It's
That's the same thing.
Yep. Okay. And just in case somebody missed it, because if I went too quick, that's what it looks like when I go to the GI Bill webpage. Now here's the beauty. You go to anywhere else on the VA homepage and you want to apply for benefits, right? It'll have this little symbol here. So you know, oh, that's where I go to apply for benefits. Okay? So what I tell people is that you can get to this webpage from multiple locations. It's just best once you get to it and you want to have it on a continuous basis to bookmark it. Okay, so it's there. All right, and I could show you all kinds of cool tricks with bookmarking. Like I have bookmarks on my desktop of my computer. That's the first page that shows up when you first turn on your computer. Some people like doing that because then they don't even have to go on the internet. They can just click on that bookmark. It goes boom right through the internet straight to that page. You know, if ever anybody wants a little bit of advice on how to do something like that, I'll walk you through it on the phone. I can give you some pointers on that. Okay?
And you can also call me.
Yeah. Billy sounds like she knows it all, so.
No, because I still gotta call David.
All right. So now, if you're a brand new user, though, to VAWNAP, you've never used the online application system before, the first thing you want to do is you want to sign up. And if you say, I'm a new user to VAWNAP, here's what I find, is there's about 4 or 5 pages of what I call government goobie-gop. Basically, oh, here's your rights, here's how you're supposed to act on the page, here's what you need to do, blah, 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 boring, okay. So, what I do through those is there's this wonderful little bar down here called Continue. I just hit Continue on those. And I just, you know, I'm like, I don't have the time to read all this goobie-gop. I know what it means. Just continue, right? And then when I get to this page, it asks me, do you want to create a VAWNAP application? And I'll say, yes. Or I'll say, no, create a VAWNAP, because it means, no, I don't have one, so yes, I want to create one. Kind of confusing, right? Shouldn't it say, yes, I want to create one? But no, it confuses you and says, no, create one. All right? It's as simple as creating a username, a password hint, and your email. And this is what I love about this. And this is where a lot of my students miss this, okay? The VA, how many people, all you Army people, raise your hand that had to set up Claymore mines? Do you remember on the back of the Claymore mine that says, don't face this way or something to that extent? Okay. I really think that they created the VA websites on some of them for us Army people because we were so used to this side up, this side down kind of language, right? For Marines, they just had arrows and hoped that they figured it out.
With their color markers, right?
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at this, it actually says under Vaughn App sign up, it says to create your username for Vaughn App, enter a username, password, hint, and email address. Didn't I just say that? There you go. Remember the information because your username and password are needed every time you enter Vaughn App. Now here's what you got to remember. Read the fine print. Like going to a car dealership, read the fine print. Passwords must be between 8 and 15 characters in length, letters, and contain each of the following: 1 or more lowercase letters, 1 or more uppercase letters, and 1 or more numbers. Okay? No symbols. No Abigail at 1. No I'm a great guy at 1. You know, none of that. It's I'm a great guy 1 works fine, you know, or you know, whatever. But you have to have the amount of, you know, characters, and you have to have certain types of things. So if you put in symbols, dots, underlines, that kind of thing, it'll kick you back out. Okay? So once you create that, though, for both, because it says right here, let's see, 1 or more. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's why I'm reading out loud. Passwords must be between 8 and 15 characters in length, and contain each of the following: 1 or more lowercase. And it says passwords, but it's both. It needs to be between 8 and 15. Okay? And here's the nice thing. You're going to love this. Let's say I do this. I'm going to go Buzz. I'm going to go Abigail at 1. I'm going to do Abigail. I cheat sometimes, and I do it like this, just to give my hint. And I'm going to do Bedwell. Bedwell gang. 2. Bedwell? No. Oh yeah, Gmail. See, I got distracted. Now watch, when I hit enter, look at what happens. It tells me, log in. I know this is a bad screen up here, sorry. The page, blah, 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 VA Gov says, login ID must be at least 8 characters long. Please correct. It prompts me to fix it. Okay? That's the beauty in this. It won't let me make the mistake. It won't let me go forward. It gives me the simplistic face to Claymore mind this direction kind of thing. Okay? Alright. Well, I hope. Alright.
Really handle it.
For you, anything.
So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back now to where I started. You going to let me do it? Okay, here we go. So, now I have went through and created a username and password. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take you into the website and show you what the website looks like. What are the forms in the website, and how are these forms used, and why are they important to us? Okay? I like this particular way of applying for benefits to the VA in the initial phase. The ongoing phase, I like having the person in front of a veteran service officer because there's medical evidence, there's other stuff. Now, Victor and I had a conversation, and the way VSOs are working, you know, they change over the years. Some do more, some do less. You know, with funding, sometimes some areas don't have as many VSOs. But I would tell you that if you're sitting down with a veteran and you want to make sure that they're going to apply for this benefit, this is the way to start. Here's another thing that you need to understand too. Whenever you apply for a benefit, the effective date for that benefit, when is that? Does anybody know? How many people say it's the day you apply?
The day it's
Submitted.
Okay.
They submitted.
Nobody's correct. I hate to tell you that. The effective date is the first of the month following the date you applied. Okay? Now, effective date, what that means is that's the first pay date. You may be service connected earlier, and there is sometimes when knowing that you were service connected on the 28th of a month versus your effective date might be important, and I've had some really unique situations such as education benefits. That's where it could be really unique, okay? But your first pay date is the first of the month following the date you filed. So, little quiz here for everybody. If I file the 1st of December, when's my effective date?
January 1st.
Great. If I file December 15th, when's my effective date?
February 1st.
if I filed December 15th,
Oh, December 15th, January.
okay, if I filed December 30th, when's my effective date? Right? Does it? Okay, now, you're talking to Joe Vet, and it's December 30th. You happen to know the county veteran service officer really well, and you know that there's not a chance in heaven that they're going to get in to see that county veteran service officer for 2 weeks. What did I say earlier? We must do no what? Harm. We must help. We must what? That's right. They're sitting in front of you. They're expressing to you that they need to file a claim for benefits. You know it's going to take 2 weeks, and we're on December 30th. Are you going to make them wait 2 weeks and then they lose a month of benefits? No. You can use this tool to submit it, right, and preserve. This is what the language, the legal language that us VSOs have used in the past. Preserve the effective date. I've literally filed a one-page document to preserve the effective date.
That's literally the word for.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a legal term that the VA uses. It's in 38 CFR. It's no. It's just it's a concept legal term that the VA uses. That's right. Okay. So that's what that means is when I go to preserve the effective date, that's what I'm doing. I'm making sure that you are not losing out on a month's worth of benefits. Okay. Now, that could be really important in an appeals process. Really important. Because in an appeals process, you have timelines to do certain things. And let's say that person, for instance, if you get a decision, you have 1 year from the date of that decision. Now I need to know what date I was awarded and what date of the letter, right? I have 1 year from the date of the letter to file an appeal. If I'm on my 11th month and 29th day, and again, I know the VSO isn't available for 2 weeks, do I think I should do a 1-sentence or a 2-sentence appeal to make sure to preserve that effective date?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And these are things that you can help with and help them do. Please understand, and I want to be very careful in this. You guys are volunteer advocates, okay? There are certain things that I'm telling you about that I normally cringed about telling volunteer advocates. But knowing Victor and knowing the type of people that he pulls together, I know that I can trust him to trust you guys to not steer the person in the wrong way. That your intent is to make sure that the benefits that they're seeking are captured, but that if they need more in-depth legal language, they need more in-depth of the blue and the green that we have here, right? That you guys know I've got to send them to somebody who's an accredited service officer, because they're the ones who can actually represent the veteran in front of the VA. The tools we're teaching you here today sometimes could make the difference between applying and not applying. I mean, I imagine Victor sat down with some people and filled some forms out to make sure that they apply, but then you know what the next step was? Never? Or had them fill it out and they submit it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I should be very clear on that.
Never fill a form out.
That's right. You could suggest wording, you could suggest language, you could do all that. Okay? But the bottom line is you want to make sure that you're not harming them, all right? And if you don't know something, let's say you don't know the specific language or the specific concept of something, then you're not the person to tell them to do that. The VSO is, okay? Or somebody who's got more experience as a veteran service officer, okay? But to write an appeal to preserve effective date is not that hard. It's, I wish to appeal your decision dated, I do not agree with the decisions made on these decisions, okay? That's simple. They can write that, right? And it still preserves. Then if I'm an accredited VSO, which by the way I'm not anymore because I work for this Oregon State, but I still have the knowledge and the background and know how to do some of these things. But if I was working as a VSO, you would bring in that copy of that appeal that went forward, and I could go, great, now I can expand upon it. Now I can go in and give a legal argument and give more information so the VA understands, yeah, let me further explain this veteran's appeal. They're appealing 50% of PTSD when they should actually be 70% because they're showing suicidal and homicidal ideation. Here's medical evidence, exhibit A, B, C, D. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's expecting you to do that. Matter of fact, I would tell you, please don't do that, okay? Because you might get that wording off just enough that it could have a negative effect. But simple language that you encourage the veteran to preserve their date, great, okay? Then get them to somebody who's accredited so they can It's kind of like being a paralegal versus a regular out attorney, right? You know, you could say, well, I think you should go this direction, but let's get you to the attorney to make sure you're on. Why do I tell you this? One is because there's HIPAA laws that say that you cannot release information for other people without their permission, and you are not an entity that can release other people's information. Okay? There's legal laws. You can be held legally and civilly responsible for things that you did in good judgment, or in good heart, I should say, and didn't know that, wait a minute, that's not something I should do. So that's why I want to make sure you understand that kind of separation. I'm showing you some things that I normally wouldn't show folks at your stage, but I know that you guys are going to use it to get the person in the door. And then once you get them in the door, you're going to get them to the person that can help them through the door. Help them, you know, navigate the entire process. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get on mine. And nobody laugh at my username here, okay? Oh, that's right, you guys can't see it.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay.
It's done right, that was so, yeah.
So that was your desktop a minute ago.
What's that?
Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. I'm a big Buzz Lightyear fan. If anybody's interested, can I take a moment and digress for a second? I got to tell you a funny story, okay? This is a funny story about myself, all right? I'm a huge Buzz Lightyear fan, okay? And what's that? Hey, that works. My two sons and I have been collecting Buzz Lightyears for almost 12 years now. And it started out as a joke, and it's resulted in quite the collection that we have 240 different Buzz Lightyear related or minor Toy Story related items. We have a goal of getting in the Guinness Book of World Records, but it's become a passion of my sons and I, and we look for Buzz Lightyears everywhere, and the most unique, most odd. We try not to buy brand new because it's expensive, so we try to buy, you know, at Goodwill, garage sales, that kind of thing. And it's just been a passion of ours. Me personally, I like the guy because he embodies most of the characteristics that I like to display. You know, he's a good friend. He never leaves a buddy behind. And, well, frankly, it's a catchy phrase when you say to infinity and beyond. So, all right. So there's the Buzz Lightyear thing. All right. Now, once you get on, the first thing you'll notice is that it allows you to create forms, and it's got different forms along the side here that tell you a little bit more information. Like, for instance, the standard form to file an initial claim for service-connected disability is a VA Form 21-526. Okay?
What's that again, the new form?
The initial form, and you only have to do this once in your career of a VA claim, is VA Form 21-526. This is the initial form to file a VA claim. Okay? And if you want to know more about it, though, there's a link here where if you click on it, guess what? It tells you all about that form. It says, about VA Form 21-526. VA Form 21-526 is the veteran's application for compensation and or pension. Use this to apply for either one or both of these benefits. Okay? Disability compensation is a monetary benefit paid to veterans who are disabled by an injury or disease that was incurred or aggravated during military service. These disabilities are considered service-connected. So it gives you a basic description of what the form is. So let's say you go, gosh, I know I need to do something for this vet, but I can't remember what the form is I need. You can go along the side and it'll tell you about some of the basic forms for different disability benefits or different benefits you're applying for. Okay? Alright, so let me get out of this. Alright. And they have other forms, I mean, like about Form 1010 Easy. That's the one that is used to file for VA medical. Okay, so if your vet needs to file for VA medical, there's the form. Alright. So, we're going to go back here. But let's say I know what form I need, and I'm going to go capture it, and I'm going to create it. Here's the beauty in this, right? If I go to create a form, all I need to do is use my drop-down arrow, and it'll actually take me to the different forms that the VA has that's on this website. It's not, and I have to be clear about this, this is not all of the forms that VA has. This is all the forms that VA uses on this website. So there's a difference there, okay? So compensation form 55126, and this is what I like about it, is it actually says, and I'm going to look, let's see here. Does that clear it up just a little? Okay. So it actually tells you what the form's for. For instance, if I wanted to do burial benefits for a veteran, I can go right to the burial benefits form because it tells me that burial benefits form 21530. It explains it. It's right there. It's self-explanatory. I don't have to know 21530 is for burial benefits because it tells me that in this website. Isn't that beautiful? VA's actually got something right? Okay. All right. I know I'm picking on them a little bit. Then there's education benefits forms, that type of thing. Today what we're going to do is we're going to just focus on one particular form. I'm not going to go all the way through the form. I'm going to show you a couple of different screen prints on it so you can see how easy it is to fill the form. And then I'm going to talk about what happens at the end. Okay? So let's do 526, because let's face it, most of us, that's what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with compensation. So when you pick a form, you've picked a particular form, right? Now you'll notice that it says add new form. So all I got to do is I clicked on it, right? Did anybody see that? You want me to go back again? Okay. I clicked on it. Now this is where, right up here, it tells me what form, VA Form 21526. So I know I'm on the right form. It gives me some of that good government goopy-gop that we all love, right? All right. Well, the beauty in it is we get done reading that, we just hit continue. Okay? And we just keep hitting continue. One of the nice things is it tells you a little bit more about each of the forms, like Social Security, income. Some of this stuff I already know, so I don't read it. But you don't, so read it. That's what I'm going to tell you. The first few times, read it. Okay? You explain it to your vet. You want to build confidence in a vet when you're helping them fill out a form like this? Take the time to explain why they're giving the information to the VA. How many of us want to give financial information to somebody we're not feeling real comfortable with? But if I explained it to you, would you feel more comfortable? No, not at all? Maybe a little? Okay. Maybe a little? Okay. But if I don't explain to you at all, you won't, right? Biggest thing another big thing that irritates me with certain VSOs is that we don't take the time to explain what are we doing. Take the time. If you're helping somebody, now again, Victor said, don't fill out the form. He's right. But you're sitting there helping them fill out the form. They're going to have questions. Take the time to help them understand the form. Okay? All right. So I hit continue, right? And it says here, yes, I've read the explanation of the Privacy Act statement. Great. All right, I'm done. Now it says create an empty new claims form. Continue. Now, it's going to explain to me what the forms are. Introduction to Part A. Part A, always fill out Part A. Part A asks for general information about you and your service. There's 4 parts to this form because there's 2 different kinds of benefits that I can apply for. Service connection and non-service connected pension. If you're filing for service connection, you may not need all 4 parts, right? If you're filing for non-service connected pension, you may only need 2 parts. Read the description. It'll tell you what you need. All right? And help the vet understand that too. Because I'm going to be honest with you. If you file all 4 parts and you're filing a service-connected claim, here's what the VA is going to do. They're going to send you a letter that says, did you want a pension claim too? Because you're going to give them income information, and they don't care about your income if you're filing a service-connected disability claim. They only care about it if you're filing a pension claim. Now, I know we haven't went into great detail on pension and compensation. I imagine you've done that in other classes? Yeah. Okay. I will talk a little bit about a couple of things in compensation that might open conversations.
Matter of fact, the videos you guys have from Tom Mann covers that very well. Okay.
I'm gonna emphasize one piece of that because I think it'll help conversations. Okay, so again, as I go through this, it explains what each step, that kind of thing. I just hit continue. Now, here we go. We start asking questions like, what are you applying for? Oh, well, I want to apply for compensation. All right? Or I want to, and you know what's nice? If you check mark that you want to apply for pension, it'll actually preload some of those forms and some of those specific questions. Okay? But if you check mark you want to apply for compensation and pension and that wasn't what you meant to do, it'll also preload that stuff too. So you need to ask the question, are you service connected or are you non-service connected? That's the difference between compensation and pension. You look like you have a question.
I always get confused about service and non-service. The non-service.
Okay, so the question on the table is, there's a confusion between service connection and non-service connection. So I'm going to talk about that just real briefly. Service connection means that you had an event, injury, or exposure while in service, or it was aggravated, okay? And it means that there's actually 5 ways to get service connection. So I'm going to cover that real quick. Direct, secondary, presumptive, aggravated, crap. And direct, secondary, presumptive, aggravated.
And Tom Mann said he'd get back to number 5 later.
It is, it's on the video. Hopefully everybody has one of these.
Why am I missing it? Because I used to train this all the time. Direct, secondary, aggravated, presumptive, and yeah, forgetfulness. There we go. No, the last one is aggravation. There's aggravation. Yeah, thank you. 1151. That's what it was. I knew it was. So direct is pretty simple. It happened to me while I'm in service, and I have the problem now. Okay, that's pretty simple. Secondary is I have a direct service connection, i.e. diabetes, and now I have neuropathy of my feet. Secondary, okay? Presumptive is the law says that if you meet a certain criteria and you have this particular condition, it's automatically service connected, whether it happened in service or not. It's presumed service connection.
Would that be like Agent Orange and diabetes?
Yeah, ask that question again.
Would that be like Agent Orange and diabetes or ischemic heart disease or something like that?
Exactly. Yep, that would exactly be it. It would be that you served in the Vietnam War, you were boots on soil, or you were blue water, and now you have this particular condition. Okay? So that's presumptive. 1151, the most challenging claim you'll ever win. I've never won one, period. Doesn't mean I don't know how to do them. I'm just saying I've never won one because I've never found one that I went, sure, that's an 1151. It's basically where you go into the VA system or VA medical system or voc rehab and you sustain an injury due to their maliciousness, their carelessness. It's kind of like I had a surgery on right arm and they took off left foot kind of thing, okay? It's got to be real blatant, real clear, and I have to tell you, 99% of people who file 1151 claims do not win. Why? Because there's really nothing there. Like, for instance, if you go in for back surgery and now all of a sudden you're having sciatica pain in your leg, that's the pain that shoots down your leg, right? That's not an 1151 claim. That's a result or a risk of having a back surgery, as an example, okay? If you go in and you have an open heart surgery and you end up dying in the middle of the surgery, that's not an 1151 claim. That's a risk of having heart surgery. But if you go in and you have open heart surgery and they leave a sponge in you, and then you incur an infection and you die because of the infection, that's an 1151 claim because somebody carelessly left a sponge in you. Do you kind of see the difference there? Okay, so service connection, 5 different ways. I'm happy I got, thank you for 1151.
It's called aggravation.
And now aggravation. So aggravation is 2 types of aggravation. You go in with a pre-existing condition, so that's where you have a back problem, and the military makes it worse. It's beyond natural progression, okay? Or let's say you have a service-connected issue, such as, excuse me, let's say you have, I'm trying to think of one because I can't remember many that work this way, but I'll just use one. Let's say you have diabetes, right? And that's service-connected, but you also had like a liver condition that was pre-diabetes, wasn't service-related, but it wasn't that bad, but now all of a sudden you have diabetes and your liver condition goes through the roof. And you can prove medically that the diabetes is what caused the liver condition to get worse, right? Not natural progression, because some things naturally progress, but literally caused it to get worse. Then that could be an aggravation, and that's what we call post-military aggravation of a service-connected issue, okay? So 2 different kinds of aggravation, but the bottom line is somehow service connection, there's a direct correlation between your disability and your military service, okay? Now, pension, non-service connected pension. You may have heard it, wartime benefits, that kind of thing. Basically what it is you are a wartime era vet. Doesn't matter whether you actually served in a war zone or not, just that you have to be a wartime era vet. You had to serve 90 days of active duty service with 1 day during that wartime period, right? And then you have to have a disability for veterans. You have to have a disability that rates you as permanently and totally disabled. That's not necessarily service connected, right? It could be you broke your back from a really bad car accident, and then you're in a very bad financial situation, like making less than $1,000 a month countable income. Then you would get what they call a low-income, non-service connected pension, because your disability is non-service connected and your income's low enough. Okay. There's also a death pension that's for widows, and I won't go into that, but same concept. Okay. So does that kind of help explain service connection versus non-service connection? Give you kind of okay. That and now can you kind of see why income's needed for non-service connected, but it's not needed for service connected? As as Victor said earlier, we look at Senator McCain as an example. He is clearly a service-connected individual with everything that he's went through. I don't know personally if he's ever filed a claim. I've heard he has. Okay.
100%.
All right. But look at how many millions of dollars a month or millions of dollars a year or whatever he's making as an elected official and some of the other things he does, right? He still gets to receive the exact same amount as a 100% service-connected veteran who's making nothing from outside sources, because your service-connected compensation has nothing to do with your annual income, where your pension could. Okay? All right. So we're going to move on here to continue. Wait a minute. Come on now. Come on. Okay. So as you'll see, the form, it just continues to ask me questions, and it'll pre-fill my form. This one, it asks what's my name, what's my, what's my sex, did you serve in the military, that type of thing, right? Now, like, Mr., Mrs. Yeah. Suffix is like junior, senior. No. Okay. So if you click continue, it'll let you keep going through the form without filling it out. But one of the things that I want to note to you is that at the end of the form, before you submit, it's going to say you need to go back and fill these things out. Okay? Now, I'm not going to really submit a form because then I would submit it to the federal VA and I don't want them to get mad at me. But one of the things that you do when you first help a veteran go through this process to submitting a form is at the end it'll ask you, when you want to submit the form, it'll ask you, do you want to upload any documents like discharge paperwork or medical evidence or anything like that?
You can upload stuff.
You can. Here's my caveat. I can see you guys uploading discharge paperwork. Sure, that makes sense. Okay. But don't upload medical evidence. Okay? Don't encourage the vet to do it themselves. Here's why. You upload 10 pages worth of medical evidence and only 1 page is useful to the VA. You've now made the VA go through 9 other pages. But a good VSO is going to take that 10 pages and go, we don't need these 9, take those home, we need this one. You see what I'm saying? There might be medical evidence, and I'll get to you in just a second, Billy. There might be medical evidence that the veteran feels is valuable to their VA claim. That isn't. And I want them in front of a VSO who can explain, this is not valuable to your VA claim, and here's why. And, like I had a veteran one time who wanted to submit 50 pages worth of medical evidence, and none of it had to do with anything that we were filing a claim for. Well, it's medical evidence. Yeah, for what? To show how bad off I am. Yeah, but you're filing for tinnitus. This talks about depression, heart, health. The worst part about it, too, is that it could accidentally be used against you later. Oh, you file a claim for individual unemployability. You submitted 50 documents earlier where they allude to that you're unemployable because of one of your non-service connected issues. Do you think the VA is going to give you individual unemployability based upon your disabilities from the VA, or from your one where they alluded to that you might not be employable due to it? That's right. So, as a VSO, when I was working as a veteran service officer, I used to tell my veterans all the time, don't you submit nothing to the VA of that nature without me. Let me do it for you. Let me screen it. A form or two to get them started to preserve the effective date's one thing. But going full-on claim, I would not suggest it at you guys' level. And I would not suggest a veteran do it themselves. Okay? Because they may say something or do something that's going to be a harm to them. Yes?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I've been reading the books that Victor has here, and it says in the books, don't file anything like that unless you know for sure that it is going for your claim, because they can use the other evidence against you.
Yes.
So.
And further on that too, one thing to keep in mind when you're working with veterans, what if the doctor has written it in their chicken scratch, it's not readable, or it's all this other language in there, or it's just not user friendly, right? You know what I've done with some vets? I've said, hey, what kind of relationship do you have with your doctor? Oh, it's a great relationship. Good. Can you go back and ask your doctor to write a letter that's real specific to your condition and how it affects you? And here's the VA law that talks about your condition and the different percentages. Can they kind of talk about that a little bit and say, you know, like 50% for post-traumatic stress disorder? I'll have a mental health professional write, yeah, this person has PTSD. Here's the stressors. I mean, I'll have them clearly lay it out to where when the VA looks at it, it's now simple, right? So you might be able to encourage your veteran, take these 50 pages, go back to your doc and have them put it in a one-page document. Now we've made the VA life simple. Yes?
I've done it, or a similar thing for myself.
Right.
Some doctors won't even recognize it for you.
Well, and some doctors won't. You're right. You know. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, okay, so let's say, though, you're vet and you know, there comes times, like in particular, let's say you're filing out a claim for PTSD, right? Those of you, you don't have to, how do I want to do this? Do you guys mind self-disclosing if I ask? I'm going to allow you to decide whether you want to or not. If you filed a PTSD claim and you feel comfortable disclosing, how many of you did it right out the chute in the first session? How many of you took multiple sessions to get it completed? Right. If you don't mind me asking you, was it because part of it, as you went through it, it got a little bit challenging and you had to come back to it multiple times to finish it?
Definitely.
Same thing you would say, probably?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're sitting with somebody and this is their first time actually acknowledging that they have a disability. That's a huge step for them, right? Could it be that it takes them a little bit of time to get comfortable to submit that application? Yes. Now, you as an advocate not wanting to do any harm, right, and you're wanting to help, you're going to be aware of dates, because we talked about that, right? You're going to be aware of how long it's going to take them to get into a service officer. What you may have to do is you may have to say, you know what, I understand you're not feeling comfortable right now, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the application for today. Let's go get a cup of coffee and let's come back to it. Here's the beauty. You don't lose anything. Because what happens is, when you do that, it goes into the incomplete form section of the home page of the Vaughn app. You remember that first page I came to where it tells me about the forms, tells me how to create one, that kind of thing? It just drops it right in there as an incomplete form. So all I got to do is when I'm ready to come back to is click on it, and look, it goes right back to where I left off. Okay? So that's a beautiful thing. Yes, sir. Oh, wait a minute. Let's get the mic here. You got it, guys? All right. Thank you.
Incomplete forms do not, or let's put it this way, do incomplete forms affect the effective date?
Great question. And the answer is, until it's submitted, it does not affect the effective date. Okay? So what that means is, until you submit it to the VA, they are not aware, the VA is not aware that I'm interested in filing for service connection as the person in there right now because I have not submitted it to them. So when it's incomplete, it has not been submitted to the VA. Let me put it in a different way. I write out my claim and I stick it on this table. It's the same concept as it being incomplete in here. It has not been submitted to the VA. The VA is not aware I want to do a claim yet. It's not till I submit it that they're aware.
Yeah, I think that's part of the question he was asking. I think, too, the question he was asking is if he fills it out on the 15th of December and he comes back on the 22nd, does it still affect the date of January 1st?
Okay, that's a good question. So if you start 15th, as long as you're within that month, I could take 5 days within that month, and it's still going to be January 1st, right? So let's say I started on the 1st of December, and this vet's taking a while to get everything done, and we finally submit it December 15th, but we've opened it 5 times. December 15th, it'll still be January 1st. The only time it'll go to February 1st is if the last time I do it is after January 1st.
Okay, so now on the initial one, let's just say he wants to open up a claim and I'm doing it December 29th or December 30th. We do need to get that claim submitted by December 31st. Is that correct?
That is correct. But here's what I'm going to do. There's another form I'm going to show you here in a minute where if you can't get this form completed, and I forgot your name, sir.
Joe.
Joe. So Joe and I are sitting and we're talking, and Joe has a severe case of PTSD, okay? And Joe just he can't keep with me to complete this whole form. He just can't do it. And I know that about Joe, right? So one of the things I may do is I may submit a one-page document for Joe that'll at least preserve his effective date. And here is that form that is the one-page document. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my start section. Now, how do I know Joe won't be able to do the whole 526 with me? The 21-526. Because why?
PTSD attack.
Because he's got a PTSD attack, but I know Joe. I have a personal relationship. I've developed a relationship where Joe's comfortable with me, right? So, if I know Joe can't do that, there's this form in here called a VA Form 21-4138. 21-4138. Now, it's called a claim in support of, a claim. They call it a claim statement, but it's in support of claim statement is really what the form's called. Okay, this form is no different than me writing out on a piece of paper with my name, my social security number, my phone number, my address, and mailing it to the VA and saying, I want to file a claim for XYZ. Okay? But I'm going to show you what this form looks like because it's really simple. I go in there, I add a new form, here's my goobly gop again, right? And I know that's real good technical language. And yes, I've read the explanation. Create a new empty application form. Okay, continue. I'm going to do my salutations and who am I with my social security number and all that good stuff, right? I'm going to do my address, right? Now I've gotten to this statement. The following statement is made in connection with a claim for benefits in the case of the above named individual. What I'm going to write is, I want to file a claim for, and then label everything I want to file a claim for. Right? So I want to file a claim for PTSD. I want to file a claim for diabetes. I'm just gonna say it all. I'm not gonna give a lot of other explanation in there because that's gonna come. When I get with the VSO, they're gonna develop. Why am I filing a claim for PTSD? Why am I filing a claim for diabetes? All I'm doing is preserving that effective date. I know my guy's gonna take 30 days to get through the 526. All right. So I will go ahead and put this in there. There's this language in the VA system, and it's a legal language again. By doing this one-page document in the initial claim process, it's called an informal claim. I have 1 year from the date of that, actually it's 1 year from the date of the letter that they're going to send me to actually formalize the claim. The VA Form 21-526 is what actually formalizes the claim. So, if you're in a situation where you're up against time and you know you're not going to be able to get what you need out of this individual to put a formalized claim in, right? Because there's no VSO or they're just not comfortable yet, but you know that they need a claim and they're willing to work with you to get the claim, do the 21-4138 and at least preserve that effective date, and then they can even follow up with the VSO or follow up with you to do the formalization of the claim with the 21-526. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Now again, like I said, and I'll get to you in just a minute. I normally don't tell people at you guys' level this, but I know that you guys are wanting to help the veteran, and I know that if you keep it simple, it'll at least preserve that date, and then when the VSO comes online, they can take it from there and now expand upon that. Okay? Yes, sir.
2 questions.
Mike, thanks.
2 questions. What was the time duration that we have to follow up with the 21-526 after the 4138?
You have 1 year from the date of a letter that they will send you.
Okay, 1 year from the date of the letter.
Yes. Not from the date of the submission of the 4138, because the VA has to acknowledge it. Then they'll go, hey, by the way, we acknowledged your claim. Here's your effective date, right? The first month following. Now, the date of the letter, they'll actually say you have 1 year from the date of this letter to move forward. Yes.
You mentioned earlier, and I believe you mentioned earlier, after you fill out the 214138 statement, claim statement, and you say, I want to file a claim for XYZ, do you have to have XYZ, or can you eliminate and then can you add more?
Okay, good question. So, first, do you have to have, there's 3-part question there. Do you have to have XYZ? I would say it's probably a good idea to meet the basic elements of a service-connected disability claim if you're going to file for that. What that means is the ABCs of a claim. 1, did you have an event, injury, or exposure while in service? B, do you have a current condition that's a result of event, injury, or exposure while in service? And C, is there a connection between your current condition and the event, injury, or exposure in service? Okay? Remember the 5 principles or the 5 ways to get service connected when you're dealing with all of those. Okay? 2, can I take away things from a claim? Like, say for instance, I file depression and PTSD, but really I just want to keep with the depression because I find that might be a better route to go. Yeah, you can write a claim later or a document later. The VSO could have this conversation with you and say, no, you know what, I don't think you should go after PTSD because you don't have the legal requirements for that, but you might have the legal requirements for depression, and here's why. Let's withdraw the PTSD claim, right, and let's move forward on the depression. Yes, you can eliminate. And it won't mess with your effective date. Now, adding to, little different story. Let's say as you're talking to the VSO, that the VSO realizes, wait a minute, your advocate really did a good job for you filing this diabetes claim, but there's a brand new law out there that makes ischemic heart disease part of the diabetes claim. And your VSO or your veterans advocate that was like you guys didn't maybe know that because you didn't get the new information. You were good at filing a diabetes claim, but to get them to file the diabetes claim, but you didn't know about the ischemic heart. VSO just learned about it that morning, but yet it's past that. Say it's now February 1st, and you filed the claim, January 1st, right? Well, the VSO can go ahead and add that to the claim package, but what's going to happen is there's going to be a different effective date for that condition. Okay? Don't beat yourself up about that, though. What's the most important thing? Can somebody tell me what the first most important thing is? And I will repeat it.
Getting the claim filed.
Getting the claim filed. Doing no harm. Helping the veteran, right? Okay. So, it is the most important thing. We're going to preserve that effective date. Again, though, as Victor and I have said, you're not filing the claim for the vet. You are helping encourage them to utilize the tools to advocate for themselves, to get the claim filed, and then get themselves in front of a veteran service officer so they can finally get the benefits done, right? Okay, because you're not accredited, right? Okay, so that's the approach you're using. I'm not here to, and you could tell, you could tell the vets too sometimes. I am not an accredited veteran service officer. I cannot represent you in front of the Board of Veterans Appeals. So, why do I tell you that? Because if I miss something, I want to apologize now, but my goal is to get you the benefits you deserve, and that's a 2-part process with me. Today, it's getting you to understand the tools and the application that I can help you navigate through, and the second part is getting you to the guy or gal who can actually help you fulfill that whole claim, right? Now you're being honest, you're being professional, you're building relationship. And guess what? I imagine Victor, I haven't been in any of his counseling sessions because he didn't need to counsel me, but knowing Victor as well as I do, right, I imagine some of his language was like that, right? I have a process for you. I'm going to help you get the tools you need, but I'm going to get you in front of the guy or gal who's going to help you get the claim fulfilled. I imagine it went something like that. Maybe not the same exact words, but something like that.
A little more like movie.
Yeah.
A little more color.
Go ahead.
All it tells me is to be nice.
So, Gus, going back to the very beginning of this,
Yeah.
on that, might be a stupid question, but I just need to know. I just need to know. The question is, at the beginning of the Vaughn app, that's the username and the password and all that. Should that be set up
with the guy that's helping the vet, or should that be set up for the vet?
Great question. Okay, so here's how I'm going to answer it. In my life, I believe in empowering people. I'm empowering you to be better at what you do. If I did your job, how helpful am I? I'm not. My goal in life is to teach 100 people so they can go out and teach 100 people themselves, so they can go out and teach 100 people themselves, so they can go out and get the concept. So, to answer your question, this computer, when I'm at work, I have a wireless keyboard and mouse. When we set up a Von app application for a vet, I slide the mouse and keyboard around. I grab a Post-it note and a pen. I put it in front of them. I pull the screen around so they can see the screen. And I go, let's work on your username and password. If they flunk and they get that OK message where they did it wrong, I make them do it again. Why? Because they're the ones who's going to have to use this process later. Not me. I know how to use it for myself, and I know how to teach them, but it's their tool now, right? And then guess what? They're going to get so excited about it, they're going to go out and tell one of their buddies, and so on, so on, so on. So I would tell you that if you use this process, that what you need to do is have them be part of this. Now, with that said, Joe, I'm coming back to you. Joe, if you get a little lost, would it be nice to have somebody maybe come over and say, oh, maybe you should write it this way, or kind of give you a couple of hints? Would you feel more comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. I don't want Joe to feel like I'm just throwing the form at him and the tool at him, tell him how to use it. I want Joe to be comfortable with using the tool. So I said earlier, as a VSO, it irritates me when VSOs hand people forms. It irritates me just as much when a VSO hands them the web link. Okay? I think you can help them navigate through it and let them do it as you help them, is what I'm trying to say. Now you've given them the power. Huh?
Unless you're dealing with Victor.
Well, Victor's still back there with rocks and stones, so we're just... he calls it face page. Poor Victor, you're getting picked on a lot here, buddy.
I love it. I've got my message across.
We love you, baby.
Yeah. Now, with that said, I will tell you, there are some people I've come across that are just so computer scared. Not illiterate, they're just scared. Because anybody can be computer literate, in my opinion. Right? They're just computer scared. They just don't want to do it. And I understand. There's some people just aren't going to get there. Now, I have to make a judgment call. Do I do it for them? You know? If I'm going to do it for them, then I have to ask myself the question. And this is what I would encourage you to ask. Do I have the authority to do it for them? Okay? Maybe now I need a VSO. And maybe now I need to hand walk them in. Okay? Maybe now instead of using the Von app system, I'm giving them a piece of paper and telling them, write a little letter, and we'll go down to Kinko's or something and at least fax it into the VA, or I'll run it into the VSO or somewhere, or over to Victor, or over to Gus, and we'll get it faxed into the VA for you, and we'll give everything back to you and then get you to the VSO. Are those times going to happen? Yes. Okay? But in general, let's let them do the work so they feel empowered. They feel part of the process. You know? Because if you get a veteran, this is my theory, you get a veteran part of this process, now it's their claim, it's not my claim. Right? That's how I feel about it. Okay. That help answer your question? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh. Yep, it's theirs, not yours. They need to know it. You don't need to keep it. Don't remember it on your computer. Don't save it for them. Microphone, yes. Oh, I tried to get it.
So, as being a civilian, would I be able to set something up like this so that I could become familiar with it? Do I need to be a veteran?
No.
Okay.
No, and one of the things you'll notice is that when I first, when you first sign in, it asks for username, password, password hint, and email. Okay, that's all it asks for. And boom, you're set up, you're in. I have not submitted a form through my sign-in. Excuse me. I haven't given them my social security number, I haven't given my name. They don't even know who I am. All they know is I got an account on there. Now, some people could argue that's an inefficient use of VA system, but they haven't given me a training website to go to do things like this, so I have to use the real one. I just don't submit real forms because I don't want them coming back. Who's this Buzz Lightyear guy? You know, I mean, I don't want it to be trailed back to me.
Gus,
Yes,
can you finish this up in 30 minutes?
I can.
Okay? Would everybody like Gus to go over 30 minutes over the scheduled time because 2 o'clock is cutoff? If you would, all in favor? Gus, would you like to do that?
I will
Let's
do
take
that.
5 minutes, go do your potties, and get back in here.
Perfect.
I missed the whole question. I was talking.
You're out of luck now. Good enough. Thanks, Gus. Gus Bedwell has a real issue problem. I'm going to educate him if it kills me. What have I said about cell phones? Telephones.
Keep them on. Answer them.
Answer them. I don't care if it's normal.
What'd you say, Victor?
A divinely inspired example. It's in the whole.
I know what he's about to say, though.
Answer it. I don't care if it's a 10-second. I'm in a class. I'm doing this. I'll get back with you as soon as it's over. People are tired, and especially veterans with PTSD, with the emotional problems, get answering machines. I'm going to tell you sometimes, and you've all run into it with VSOs, 3, 4, 5, 6 days and not get a call back. You can see where the stress level goes. We're here to be their advocate. We can't be an advocate if we leave them on an answering machine or we get an email from them and we don't reply. We lose the veteran. We have failed at what we do. Don't let the veteran fail because of something we didn't do that we could have done in just 10 seconds. Say, we'll get back with you. I can't stress it enough. You have a cell phone. You have a cell phone. You have one. You have one. You have your wife's cell phone. You have a cell phone. You have a cell phone. You're going to get a cell phone. Just like this. I'm in a class, I'll come right back to you. Okay. That's how easy it is.
They're aware that their cell phone and home phone numbers are posted on the website, right?
Yeah. All of you are exposed on our webpage. You've got your cell phone, you've got your email, everything is on there. So you'll be getting calls from wherever because people are using our webpage and they're picking it up. It's very important. Be the advocate that we promised each other we'd be. I've got your 6. When they call you, they're hoping you got their 6. And that's how we're going to pass it on. And we're always going to be a family and encourage them just like I've encouraged you. I'm doing something for you. The cost that I'm going to charge you is very expensive. I need you to tell me right now that you're going to pass it on to another veteran. You're going to be a part of Vets Helping Vets. I don't know of anybody that has ever said, no, I'm not. So it's very encouraging that they do that. I want all of you to remember that veteran needs your help. And that's what we're here for. If you lose heart, you feel like you can't do it, get them to somebody that can help. I ask you at that point in time, please, with no disgrace to any one of you, retire yourself. If no more than just saying, I'm retired, but I can get you to someone that can help. Do that and let them move on. But don't sit there and let them think that you're there and then you're not.
What about, we're on a website. You said we have a webpage.
Vets Helping Vets HQ. HQ.
HQ.
And remember, it's Vets Helping Vets HQ, and every time you don't add HQ, it's a quarter in the bucket.
Okay.
Okay, get the mic. The mic. And then I've got to move on quick.
So there's a website, Vets Helping Vets HQ. And this guy comes from Delaware. And he posted it up. He saw Vets Helping Vets HQ, and he gives me a phone call. How do I help him, being in Delaware? How do I assign him? What
I can answer that if you want me to. Okay, so I don't need a mic, but I can answer that. On the internet, if you write in state VA departments, right, you can find any department of VA that's a state department out in the system. That I think that has the state numbers too. Yeah. So, but there's a 2-part answer to this question because I do this all the time. First step is find the resource for them. Just because they're in Delaware, it doesn't matter. They're a vet, they're your brother, they're your sister, they need help, right? I don't care where you're going to school. If you ask me an education benefit question, I'm going to answer it, okay? And I tell my vets that. I tell my staff that. I tell everybody I work with. It's about answering the questions and helping a vet. Then there's the second part of this, follow up. Hey, you called a week ago and you asked about State of Delaware's Veterans Program. I sent you information. Did it work out? What's happening? Are you filing a claim? Remember, that's that relationship again, right? And they may even call you a couple more times. I helped a vet that was in Hawaii for a couple of years. Our agency did not represent veterans out of the state of Oregon. He was already represented by us when he was in Oregon a number of years ago. We still had representation, but he lived in Hawaii. He didn't feel comfortable going to Hawaii State Department of Veterans Affairs, and he had a really nasty appeal situation going on. All right, whatever, you're still represented by me. And I explained to him, I can't come and do your hearing, and if you want to do it in Oregon, you got to fly here, and I'll take care of your hearing here in Oregon, right? And he said, you know what, I'd rather have it dealt in Oregon. I'll do what I need to do to have it dealt in Oregon, and I'll come fly there. He never had to, but for a couple of years, I dealt with him that way. He's a vet. He needed help. I had the resources, right? Then there's been a number of them that I've referred out. And then it's that follow-up. Did you get what you need? Oh, you didn't? Well, let me get on top of that for you. That makes sense? Okay. Mike. And then I've got to get to the disability benefits questionnaire.
Okay, I have a question. It goes back to the Form 21526.
Okay.
Now, say you got someone that's not computer savvy. They don't
Right.
feel comfortable doing it. It's still a print. Is it still a printable form that you
Yes.
can have them? You can sit there with them. They fill it out. Get a packet together before you go to the VSO.
Yes.
If they just refuse to do the website thing, these are still forms we can print out.
Yes.
And have them.
Yeah, you can go to VA Forms, and if you put in VA Forms into Google, it'll bring you to the search engine on the VA's website of all their forms. And I would encourage you that if you, as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you this real quick. This is something I do. I have right here on my desktop is something I brought over for ODVA, is I have right there is a VA Forms shortcut. Okay? I have probably 100 different VA forms that I've used over the 10 years I've been working with veterans, loaded right in there, pre-fillable forms, the whole 9 yards. So if a vet, if my internet crashes, I can still print this form out. I can still complete it online, save it to my desktop, print it out later. You know, any of that kind of thing. It's optimal, and this is one of the things that I wanted to end with on the VA forms piece before I get into disability benefits questionnaires. It's optimal to do it online because when you submit it at the end, there is a submission number that you get that says your form has been submitted, here is the submission number. And that submission number is your proof to preserve that effective date. You see what I'm saying? So the first time you help a veteran get all the way through one of those forms and they go to submit, there'll be a screen that says, congratulations, you've submitted, your submission number is, right? You could print off, huh? Yep. Well, you don't even have to save that number because here's the beauty in it. Print off a copy of that form for the veteran because it'll allow them to do it. And in the bottom left-hand corner of every form that they submitted to the VA will be that submission number. And now here's a reference number that you can go back to with the VA. You could go, and it'll have a date on it. That's the beauty in it. It's almost like a fax confirmation sheet because it'll show that it was electronically submitted on such and such date, and here's their submission number. That holds the VA to that date for preserving the effective date.
One other.
He's getting it.
Say the veteran, you've printed out the forms, they've filled them out. You're near the end of the month. Is it out of line for you to sit down with the veteran if they've already filled the forms out and plug it into the computer? Say like you're almost at the deadline and you want to make sure the claim is submitted.
I would almost tell you if you're having to plug it into the computer for the vet, that could be borderline you submitting it for the vet, and you want to be careful with that. I like the vet plugging it in themselves. You know, if they created the username and password and somehow it was uploaded and then submitted and the vet's there and doing it, and part of it, then you could probably get away with it.
I was just wondering because
I'm not going to tell you that you should submit the form, but if the form was submitted and the vet was there and created the username and password, and you were encouraging and helping in that process, and as long as you're not doing something you're not supposed to be doing for the vet, I don't think there's any harm.
All right.
Do you tracking?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Let's talk about disability benefits questionnaires. I would like to talk a long time about this, but I'm going to talk about just for a few minutes because we only have a few minutes, okay? And I still have a presentation that I want to do at the end for our folks here. Disability benefits questionnaires. The VA has really changed how they do compensation and pension claims. They went from this all-encompassing, lengthy, wishy-washy kind of pension exam or comp and pension exams. Not all of them are wishy-washy, but like PTSD, for example, there's certain things that they're supposed to hit, and not all the times would the evaluators do that, right? To this more streamlined checkbox type system. Now, some could argue that the checkbox system is really great. Some could argue it's not so great. And the reason I'll say why it's great is because it's very clear and concise on what the VA is looking. They're taking the Code of Federal Regulation, right? And they're putting it in language for doctors to be able to figure this out, right? So it also limits what the doctor can and can't do, which could be good or bad. On the flip side, I'm hearing that it's gotten so streamlined that they've learned how to take these questionnaires and feed the answers into a computer system, and the computer system actually rates the individual. Really? Which could be positive, could not be positive, because what are the things where it doesn't allow the doctor to maybe say some of those other things that might be relevant to the claim. It only looks at checkbox things. So there's some pluses and there's some negatives of this, is what I'm going to tell you. But here's a huge plus that I think. Your vet does not understand the condition they have and don't understand how to explain it to the doctor. Ischemic heart disease is an example. You could go in here and grab the disability benefits questionnaire for ischemic heart disease. You could pull it up. This is a Marine internet, obviously. Come on. If it was Air Force, it would already been up.
It's actually Star Wars.
Oh.
Verizon.
Oh. Well, I have a Verizon phone. It works great. Come on. When it pulls up, what's nice about this questionnaire is it's in specific and clear and concise language that the vet can now take this to their civilian doctor. The civilian doctor does not have to decipher VA language to provide a medical diagnosis, a medical report. The VA doctor now knows, okay, you need to know about, like, back, for instance. A lot of times doctors will write these letters that say his back really hurts. You know, it goes along that line, right? The VA doesn't care about your back pain. They care about range of motion. So if you pull up the disability benefits questionnaire for musculoskeletal injuries or spine injuries, it will ask, how much forward flexion do they have? How much side? Now you're helping the doctor write a letter or answer medical evidence that meets the VA standard to help with the disability claims benefits. Yes?
Gus, such as the ischemic heart disease that you take to your doctor, even your private doctor, I've had 3 in the last 6 months that we've done on ischemic heart disease. They have actually, with this form signed by the doctor, the VA has actually bypassed the CMPs.
And that is a VA rater who read the law, who understands that you don't have to have a CNP exam if the medical evidence does 2 things: adjudicates the claim and effectively gives you enough evidence to rate the claim. So now you've fast-tracked. Now you've gathered more evidence. Now you've helped the veteran be more successful in a quicker amount of time.
And in doing that, just as an example, those 3 claims that I did in the last 6 months went through in less than 60 days.
Yep. 3 months average.
Right. Which somebody mentioned earlier. Your name again, sir?
Stan.
Stan? Stan mentioned earlier they heard on the radio about the $2,800 cap but he also mentioned they heard that an average claim process 262 days. Stan, I will tell you that is correct. The second half, the 262 days, that I never addressed earlier, but yes, that is correct. That they're taking much longer. They're taking 18 to 24 months for an initial claim, simplistic claim to process. So if you as an advocate are helping your veteran get the medical evidence they need and get it in a manner that is easy enough for the veteran's rater to read, how quick do you think that claim is going to go through the process? Probably quicker than the average claim, right? So you're helping them by using, again, another tool. Yes, I know, on the internet and computer, but it's another tool that you can use, and it's fillable. It's something you can give to the vet to take to their doctor. It helps them explain it, and it helps make the process more streamlined. So I can't emphasize this enough. This is another one of those, Billy, that when we talk, we should probably have a link straight to it so you guys can pull it right up for your vets.
Yeah, I
Okay.
actually have that one. That was something that Victor gave us as homework. So.
Okay. Perfect. Victor, how could you? No. All right. So I could go through a lot of the other disability benefits questionnaires, but the bottom line, they're all pretty much the same. They're written in VA language terms to where you, like I said, if you have a musculoskeletal injury, instead of them looking at pain, they're looking at range of motion, which is important. If you have a mental health issue, they're going to be asking questions about your sleeping habits, your eating habits, your personal hygiene habits, your suicidal, homicidal ideation. Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, if you go into the Part 4 of 38 Code of Federal Regulation, it's all the language that's in there to help making rate the claims easier. Again, on the flip side, like I said, there is some drawbacks to it. But to me personally, what they've done here is more beneficial than it is drawback. Because guess what? If I, as a veteran service officer, feel somebody's been rated at 30 when they should have been 50, then you know what? I need to be smart enough to go out and make sure that that vet has medical evidence that shows they should have been at 50. Do you see what I'm saying? And by the way, just to be clear on this, you'll have vets that do this. Well, I've been fighting this claim for 2 years. And they rated me at 30, and they said I'm not suicidal, homicidal, right, as an example. I sure am. I just told my doctor last week I am. Okay, the first question I ask is, do you have medical evidence that says 2 years ago you were there? And if they go, well, no, I didn't have those problems 2 years ago. It wasn't until just recently. Then guess what? We're not talking about they made a bad decision. We're talking about we need to ask for an increase of your claim. See what I'm saying? Now, if there was medical evidence 2 years ago, what do you think my next question is? Anybody? Where is the documentation? And what else? Did you submit it to the VA? It's not good enough that you have documentation if it hasn't. It's the piece of paper that's sitting over here that's filled out that hasn't been submitted to the VA, right? Okay, so sometimes there's that education piece with our veterans, right? It's that you may feel this way. You are justified in the sense of how you feel. Everybody could feel how they want, right? But are you justified in legal terms? Does it suffice what the VA needs to do that next level increased benefits? Okay?
Is there time limit on increased level benefits?
So the question was asked, is there a time limit on increased level benefits? The answer is no. You can ask for an increase of benefits your entire claim history. So the VA doesn't like this, but you could get a claim awarded, and then 2 weeks later say, no, I believe since I've been awarded the claim, my benefits have gotten worse. The VA typically doesn't like you doing that, but you could do it as long as you have the evidence to show that it's gotten worse.
Does it have to be within 1 year?
No, it doesn't even have to be within 1 year. There's no timeline on increase.
5 years down the road.
Maybe 20 years down the road. I know people that started out with 10% disabilities, right, on their back, and 20 years they were fine, you know. But then all of a sudden at 50, age catches up with them, hard work, whatever it may be, and now their back's hurting a lot more, and I'm filing an increased claim on their back, and I now get them 40 or 60%. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's no time limit on asking for increases. The only time, and there's really no time limit on asking for a disability claim. It's how the effective date works. Now, I'm going to throw a little twist in there, and then I know we've got about 5 minutes, and then I want to open for questions and then wrap it up. But a little twist in there. You're going to be working with vets who've recently been discharged from the military. Okay? Something you need to understand. With vets who've been recently discharged from the military, if they filed their VA disability claim, informal, you know, that one-page letter, or a formalized claim, doesn't matter which one, within 1 year from the date of their discharge, okay? Not the first of the month following their discharge, but the date of their discharge. They will have their claim backdated for the entire year. And it will be backdated to the first of the month following the date they left. Why is that important? It's important because if you're a young soldier being a stubborn goat, not wanting to file your claim because you're not as bad as the next guy, you just screwed yourself out of a year's worth of benefits. And that's exactly how I word it to a lot of my young vets who are waiting to file their benefits. Well, it may affect my National Guard duty, or it may affect, I understand that, but how's it going to affect you when you're 60? Don't wait till you're 60 to file the claim. It's even harder. Just go ahead and file it now. You know, if you're going to stay in the National Guard for the rest of your life, okay, fine, but you're only messing yourself out of your worth of benefits. I feel the need to educate veterans on that because I don't want to harm them. I want them to know what they're doing. And I've had several that have went away for a few months, come back and go, you know what, Gus, now that I've de-escalated, now that I've come back to civilian life and I'm realizing and things are starting to settle in my life, I'm realizing that I probably should file a claim. Can you help me with that? And then we go forward, okay? So it's a little jewel in there. There's several other little jewels I could give you, but frankly, I don't have enough time for all those jewels. So one thing...
Two jewels
okay.
for you.
All right.
Because this is important, then you get to do your thing.
Yes.
I have a question. One is evidence. We talked about evidence. Gus has been talking about evidence. I want this to be understood because it's very important. When the VA sends for your medical records, or any soldier's medical records, the VA is sending for your medical file. That medical file does not include hospital records. Hospital chart notes that when you were in the hospital are not in that medical file. You have to go to the hospital to get those records. If that hospital is closed or you have not seen that hospital for 20 years, those records are then transferred to Kansas City and they are kept in a separate place. So you have to know the date, the month, and the year you were in the hospital for them to go to the archives and dig them up. Those are important records because you say you broke your hand, you went straight to the hospital in the emergency room, you stayed in the hospital 5 days, but you got out, they took the splint off and sent you back to full duty, you may have not went to your clinic. So that hand may not show up in your medical records, but it's in a hospital record. We have to make sure those veterans know that so they can order those records. Two, all VSOs tell you when you fill out the forms, I've sat in them, a lot of you guys have sat in meetings. Don't worry about your records, the VA will send for them.
No.
VSOs tell you that continually. Once you fill out your claim, don't worry about your records, the VS will send for them. When we're filing a claim for a veteran, we're helping a veteran, let's give them the information. It's in the front cover. Have them order their DD-214, their certified copies. They'll get 3. Have them order their personnel file, and have them order their medical jacket. And then any hospital records. Make sure that they order them so they can get a copy. If they've never done it, they've been denied on claim, this is something that I like to do because you don't know where things are at. Order the C file so we can help the veteran properly. So the veteran can now have that C file on hand. We cannot represent a veteran in an appeal. We're not certified. But that doesn't mean that if a veteran asks you to go because they trust you and be support, you can do that. I've been with several of you to your appeals, and I was there more of moral support than anything else. And it's helped the veteran through it. You're more than welcome to do it if the veteran asks you. But you're not there to advocate or be a legal representative.
Victor, when I filed for mine, all I filed for was medic on the form, you know, when we did pull the form off that.
That's right.
But there was nothing that indicated clinical on that form,
That
other than the word other.
Those are your clinical forms. Under other, that's where you order your hospital records.
Yeah, That I was not told to do. Didn't know that, so I got lucky, but.
They don't tell you.
I know, but I mean, when we went through it, it's just one issue that when we talked with Kim over here, then she said you need to make sure medical and clinical and hospital.
And clinical.
So it's when you look at a form, you got to look at that carefully.
Right.
If you get one of the forms, you're talking to your VA.
Right.
I mean, a veteran.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to do real quick as a closing note, and then I do have a presentation for everybody here. Victor mentioned National Archives or your military records, medical records, and Dave, I don't know if you've got a good screenshot of that or not. Okay. Perfect. The National Archives has a spot on their website where you can actually request vet records. Okay? And that's right here. It's called Request Records Online with eVetRecs. This is your service medical records, not the hospital records he was talking about. This is the service medical records, service personnel records, a copy of the medals. If you never got issued your medals or you've lost your medals or ribbons or any of that stuff, you can request that here too, okay? Sometimes what you're going to do is for a little old widow, you're going to request a new set of medals for her husband of 50 years. You are a hero. You know what I mean? And if you have the money or you have somebody who has the money, when you get those medals, I don't care if it's 2 medals. You want to be a stud in their eyes or a studette? Go get it put in a shadow box and present it to them. That will make them be your, I mean, it's like pudding. I'm going to just say that. I've done it enough times, and it's just a great way to honor, especially a widow. But it's this website here, and I know Billy's writing notes, so we'll probably get this as one of those links to give you guys. Easy to do, easy to submit. Once you put all the stuff on electronically, it'll ask you to print, sign, and fax a particular form. Okay? Now, this one, I would venture to say, because you're not releasing any medical information to anybody, that you could help the vet a little bit more with this one in the submission process. Okay? And it might be that you start the vet out on something like this because it's so simple compared to the other forms that they get comfortable with this, that when you get to Vaughn app, they've got a comfort level on using government forms. Do you see what I'm saying? So again, it's that tool process. Okay? So, I know you guys would like to ask questions about this, but at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end the training. We're about 30 minutes over. I do appreciate it, but I do want to do one thing before we end the training. So I'm going to push this chair back here real quick. So everybody who's been in the military here is familiar with military challenge coins, right? How many people have received one in the military at some point in your life? Okay. So I brought something with me today to do 2 things. 1, to honor you guys as individual veterans, and 2, to honor you individuals who are not veterans as well in the room, and veterans, because of the service that you're continuing to do to your country by helping your brother and sister. I brought with me Oregon State's first and only military challenge coin. So I'd like to give each one of you one of these. And these were specifically designed to honor veterans for their service to our country. And I have my bag, so I have to look at my bag here. And get a couple more here real quick. Not a problem. Uh-oh. Ah, I do. I had them in 2 different spots. Here we go. Good. There you go. And I want to apologize in advance. I know that the proper way to do this is the way that I'm going to do this with Victor here. But I want to thank you all for letting me at least give you those. Victor, here you go, my friend. Thank you. All right. Now, I have a charge for you guys. Take the information you've learned today and go out and teach 10 more people. Go out and help 10 more people get what they deserve for their service to our country. Take the challenge coin, show them. And you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm very prideful of what Oregon State University's done. So it's not going to hurt my feelings any if you pull out one of those challenge coins one of these days in front of a young lad or young lady and say, you know what, if you want a school that really supports our country in the way that they support veterans, here might be a school you want to check out. They have a great veterinary program. They have a great forestry program. They have individuals that are willing to help students in general be successful. And Victor, I know you know this firsthand because doesn't your daughter, right?
My wife retired from Oregon State University, and my daughter's been there 18 years.
Right. So, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. And maybe it's a plug for them. Shameless plug, sorry. But, no, I'm not sorry. Who am I kidding? But really what I want to make sure that the message emphasized, though, is that what Victor's always emphasized to you guys all along, is that we are here to help you to help others. And you're going to have my contact information. I know Billy's going to light me up on the internet and on the web. Don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Grab one of my business cards. Send people my way. I don't care where they're going to school. I don't care what their need is. If I'm not the final answer, I'll get them the final answer.